I felt that, hindi naman talaga unification ang intention o yung objective. I was only informed by the Senate President after our meeting. Sabi niya, hindi mo ba napansin na yung dalawang daliri ni Frank nakaturo sa amin dalawa? Tinuro niya si Vice President Lenny saka si Senate President Tito Soto na sila yung magkatandem. In my face, when I was told that, I felt insulted.
That was presidential aspirant and incumbent Senator Ping Lacson recalling events that transpired before the major candidacy filings last week.
Differences in principles had been tagged as the reason behind the fallout in unification talks, but Lacson insists that the Robredo camp had not been serious about pursuing it as well. Good evening, I'm Gretchen Hall.
I'm Robbie Alampay. You're watching The Big Story. Accounts on unity talks are now starting to trickle out, and it seems that one of the reasons for failure is they could not agree on who should lead.
But opposition leaders are still hopeful to unite, even if only at the senatorial level. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez gives us a front seat to the story.
Now it can be told, unity talks among the opposition failed because no one wanted to back down.
I felt that hindi naman talaga unification ang intention o yung objective.
Presidential candidate Senator Ping Lacson detailed how a second meeting between Vice President Leni Robredo and Senator Franklin Drilon left him feeling insulted. Apparently, Drilon had been suggesting that Robredo and Soto team up and implying that Lacson should withdraw. That meeting took place on October 2, 2 days into the filing of certificates of candidacy.
Tinuro niya si Vice President Lenny saka si Senate President Tito Soto na sila yung magkatandem, telling me in my face to withdraw and mag-create ng bagong tandem. When I was told that, I felt insulted,
Prior to that, Robredo also held separate talks with Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and Senator Manny Pacquiao in the hopes of uniting all the non-administration candidates. But Moreno's camp likewise says they couldn't agree on certain issues and felt betrayed when Robredo announced her own candidacy.
Ang feeling ni Isko was it was a sense of betrayal Kasi all the time, we were made to believe that the Vice President was being an honest broker towards unification or towards uniting the disparate groups.
So now, opposition leaders are hoping unity will at least happen on the senatorial level.
We are very hopeful that unity is still possible, maybe not among the presidential contenders, but definitely among many different kinds of people from different political affiliation.
The Robredo camp has been negotiating talks with former Bayan Muna Representative Nery Colmenares and Federation of Free Workers President Sonny Madula to be included in their senatorial slate. Other names have yet to be released. Meanwhile, Senator Ping Lacson says they're endorsing 14 senatorial candidates instead of the usual 12. He also says he supports a proposal to ban candidate substitutions unless it's due to death. Mobile journalist Pamela Vasquez, We Are One News.
Let's get more insights on how unity talks went about for others. We have with us tonight senatorial candidate, former Senator Antonio Trillanes. Good evening, Senator Trillanes.
Good evening, Robbie and Ms. Gretchen.
Sir, and, we're getting so many versions, pero there is a line that has been consistent over the past few days from both the Moreno camp as well as now the Ping Lacson camp. Sinasabi nila, nung binobroker naman yung unity talks, parang pinaasa kami. It was as if they're casting Vice President Leni Robredo as suggesting na hindi ako tatakbo. Gusto ko lang magkaisa yung lahat ng tatakbo against the administration candidate, and they're framing it as, one word that was used as betrayal, and para bang naloko sila na bakit o biglang may balak pa lang tumakbo. What is your account, sir, of how things went?
Siguro, Abby, alam nyo yung mga interviews natin, dun sa The Chiefs, na you can feel my frustration ng mga panahon din na yon na hindi namin alam kung tatakbo o hindi si VP Lenny because that's the truth. Talagang hindi niya alam na tatakbo siya. In fact, she was willing to give way to all of them, to any of them, para lang ang magkaisa yung posisyon. And kaya itong lumalabas na itong mga revelations nila Senator Ping at nila Isko, ito yung talagang totoo na hindi talaga tatakbo si VP nung panahon na yun. At nangyari lang, nabuo lang yung kanyang desisyon after nag-fail yung mga talks. So I don't see any betrayal there. It was very consistent doon sa naramdaman namin kasi talagang in fact, tinutulak namin si VP tumakbo at ayaw niya, kaya na-frustrate din kami. So, walang betrayal kami nakikita.
Okay, in any case, nandito na po tayo. Now, in the past 2 days, para bang kasi nung around Friday heading into the weekend, meron ding mga anghang na balita, na salita. Simula galing sa kampo ni Isko Moreno in particular and the Lenny Robredo camp. But for the past 2 days, you've been hearing a lot of people in these camps na para bang pinapakalma. I mean, that's the sense that we're getting. Na parang may pinakalma, wag muna tayo magbanatan on both sides kasi down the line, baka kailangan pa rin natin ng isa't isa. Baka maubusan tayo ng options vis-a-vis the administration candidate. Are you on that same boat and message? And kung tuloy pa rin po ang unity talks, anong pag-uusapan sa unity?
I think it's very clear at this point from VP Lenny herself na irreconcilable na yung differences as far as the presidential candidates are concerned. Sinabi na rin niya ni VP Lenny early on na once she files her COC, dire-diretso na ito. Ngayon kung meron man give way dito later on, it's not going to be her. It's going to be the others. Ano? Siguro magle-leverage sila pag nakita nilang hindi na uubra yung kanilang kandidatura, maaring mag-reach out sila na giveaway sila just so meron silang makuhang certain appointments. Siguro that's the most na mangyari. But as far as VP Lenny is concerned, dire-diretso na ito.
Okay, senatorial aspirant and former Senator Antonio Trillanes. Sir, maraming salamat po. Lacson's running mate, Senate President Tito Soto, also commented on the unity talks. He said it came too late. Soto said they were already busy setting up their campaign nationwide when calls for a unified coalition came. The Lacson-Soto group has already forged an alliance between different groups, namely the National Unity Party, the National People's Coalition, Reforma Party, and the United Nationalist Alliance.
These are the other big stories tonight. Metro Manila shifts to alert level 3 this weekend with more activities allowed. Some health experts, however, are still apprehensive about downgrading restrictions. The pilot vaccination of minors begins tomorrow, starting with the 12 to 17-year-olds who have comorbidities. Health officials give their assurance that measures are in place should there be any rare adverse reaction for the age group. And fans of the Fab Four are in for a treat with the upcoming release of The Beatles Get Back. The docuseries will feature never-before-seen footage of the iconic British rock group in action. More of these big stories after the break.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Ho. Metro Manila will ease to Alert Level 3 starting October 16, allowing several businesses to reopen and increase capacity.
The World Health Organization now approves of the capital's looser restrictions, citing its high vaccination coverage. Maricel Halili with the details.
Metro Manila would see more businesses reopen starting October 16. That's after the Interagency Task Force placed the region under Alert Level 3. Among them are cinemas, which suffered about 21 billion pesos in losses since shutting down at the onset of the pandemic. Theme parks, swimming pools, libraries, museums, and other tourist attractions, as well as venues for weddings, parties, and debuts, will also be allowed. Indoor accommodation should only be up to 30%. And only for fully vaccinated individuals. Outdoors may open up to half of its capacity and may cater to the unvaccinated. The reopening of cinemas did not sit well with Tony Leachon, former advisor of the National Task Force against COVID-19. Leachon says indoor venues like theaters involve being near crowds. They are also poorly ventilated, putting people at high risk for COVID. Maricar Limpin of the Philippine College of Physicians also warns that hospitals remain full up to this day.
Mas maraming tao ang lalabas, therefore mas malaki ang chance na mas marami na naman ang mag-positive for COVID-19.
But the palace thinks otherwise.
Hindi po kami matatakot sa kahit anong rekomendasyon ni Dr. Liachon. Una-una, ito po ay para sa mga bakunado lamang. Pangalawa po, 30% seating capacity, wala po yung magkakatabi. Tapos number 3, meron pang guidelines na inisyu po ang ating DOH na kinakailangan may ventilation, may use of air purifier system.
The Octa Research Group's recent findings show that COVID cases in the last 7 days have dropped 30%. If this continues, NTF advisor Ted Herbosa believes an alert level 2 is in the offing.
The usual period is 2 weeks, right? So after October 31 or before October 31, we will get to see how the release of restrictions will affect the number of cases.
The once reluctant World Health Organization is now backing Metro Manila's gradual reopening, citing its high vaccination coverage.
We believe that we need to adjust and calibrate the restrictions, and that's why WHO took up the position that we support the granular lockdowns, we support the easing of restrictions.
To date, only Metro Manila is using the experimental alert level system. The IATF has yet to decide if it can be implemented outside the capital. For News 5, Maricel Halili, We Are One News.
The government has eased quarantine restrictions for foreigners and Filipinos entering the country, but Health Secretary Francisco Duque says he and other top task force officials were not consulted about the new policy. Starting today, facility-based quarantine will no longer be required for fully vaccinated inbound Filipino and foreign travelers from green countries as long as they present their negative COVID-19 test. The RT-PCR test of arriving travelers must be taken within 72 hours before departure. Facility-based quarantine will still be required for those unvaccinated or partially vaccinated. Malacanang meanwhile maintained that health experts were consulted before making the decision.
Nando naman po si Dr. Edsel Salvania at siya po yung nag-manifest na minimal naman daw po ang risk galing sa mga green countries kasi nga po kaya sila naging green countries, napakababa po ng kaso ng COVID. So, tapos meron pang PCR test. Bukod pa kay Dr. Edsel Salvania, nandun din po si Yusek Vergere, nandun din po si Althea ng Epidemiological Bureau.
Vegetable and flower prices are expected to go up after Typhoon Maring ravaged agriculture in the north. Romel Lopez has the story.
Vegetable prices in La Trinidad trading post went up after severe tropical storm ravaged parts of northern Luzon. Many farmers rushed to harvest crops that they could still sell. But since many of the vegetables were damaged by the heavy rainfall, they were only able to salvage a few.
Sa lakas ng bagyo, madami talagang nasira. Halos hindi lang kalahati, mga mahigit pang nasirang pananim doon. Patatas, lahat, repolyo, ganun.
Kaya ba medyo nataas-taas ang presyo?
Sa ngayon pa lang hindi masyadong tumas pero sa darating na araw sigurado yan na tataas kasi wala nang stock na gulay, wala nang maha-harvest.
This will be additional burden for consumers. Currently, some vegetable in La Trinidad are being sold at a higher price. Tomatoes are now at 28 pesos per kilo from 20 pesos. The price of onions also increased to 140 pesos per kilo from 120 pesos. Potatoes nearly doubled in price from 30 pesos per kilo to 65 pesos per kilo. But not all vegetables are seeing an increase in prices. These include garlic, which remains at 140 pesos per kilo. Meanwhile, the cost of Baguio beans decreased to 80 pesos per kilo from the previous 85 pesos per kilo. Broccoli is now at 60 pesos per kilo from 90 pesos per kilo.
Na-slide mga kalsada, ay ngayon nagtrabaho mga tao, kaya nabuksan yung kalsada nila, nakarating na sila dito. Mas mababa ngayon.
So maraming stock.
Oh, dami.
Still, farmers and traders says that marine's damage to crops may cause prices of some vegetables to still shoot up until December. Meanwhile, prices of flowers from La Trinidad are also expected to shoot up due to higher demand during the All Saints Day and All Souls Day. Roses will be sold at around 350 pesos per bundle from the previous 200 pesos. Other flowers like chrysanthemum and carnation, all priced below 100 pesos, may cost a little bit more before the month ends. But sellers are also facing another problem, the lack of customers.
Ito nga, walang bumubiling buyer, walang maakyat. Kahit may buyer, mura ang bayaran nila.
Flower farmers are just banking on improved weather so buyers may visit them soon for the upcoming undas. For News 5, Romel Lopez. We are One News.
Time for another quick break. When we return, agencies are warning against the use of text blast machines for election campaigns. Apart from it being illegally sold online, officials say it could even affect actual emergency notifications. Pilot pediatric vaccinations against COVID-19 begin tomorrow, but some parents are still hesitant about getting their kids vaccinated.
Good evening. You're still watching The Big Story. I'm Robbie Alampay.
And I'm Gretchen Hall. Text blast machines were already a thing for elections since 2012, an online seller says.
But agencies are warning about its possible threat to privacy and its impact on election campaigns. Camila Monte has this story.
More than a dozen sales ads for text blast machines can be seen on different e-commerce websites ahead of the 2022 elections. This product is advertised as a political campaign text blaster on Facebook Marketplace, Lazada, and Shopee. News 5 talked to one of the online sellers to inquire about the product. The seller told us that many politicians are buying text blast machines this election season.
Sino po yung mga bumibili sa inyo? Saan po ginagamit?
2012 pa ako, nagbebenta na ako nito. May mga, may mga mayor, congressman, senator. Actually, hindi naman talaga to pwedeng, illegal kasi talaga to. Hindi to pwede sa mga politiko.
The seller also said that the device is effective in election campaigns since it could send multiple text messages even without numbers.
Hindi na kailangan ng contact numbers ng kung sino yung within the area na yan. Kasi yung machine na yun, as long as nasagap ka sa within 2 kilometer radius niya, nasasend niya ng message.
The price ranges from 1.5 million up to 3 million pesos, depending on the text characters. The National Privacy Commission is alarmed by these unsolicited political messages. NPC Chair Raymond Liboro said real emergency alerts from NDRRMC might be disregarded by the public eventually.
When people are getting this as emergency alert, kapag totoong risko na o natural o lindol na yan o tsunami na yan, baka hindi mo napansinin. Kung marami ka natatanggap ng mga ganyan.
Following this, the NTC has ordered e-commerce sites to stop selling the equipment. The regulator said it is a clear violation of the radio control law. They, however, admitted that it is difficult to trace groups or individuals using the equipment.
Mahirap siyang ma-monitor, masundan. Kailangan ng talagang yung surveillance, kailangan ng intelligence work.
The NAMFER has also expressed their concern.
Ang pinaka-danger nga dyan is, to me, it borders on intrusion to the privacy of the individuals, ng mga tao. Okay? So, for example, kung yung text blast ay pumasok in an ungodly hour, di ba? Intrusion na yun.
For News 5, Camille Samonte, we are One News.
Here are other election stories we're watching. PDP Laban Secretary General Melvin Matibag defends COMELEC's substitution policy, saying it's not a mockery of elections, but an exhaustible legal option for political parties. The party has repeatedly denied that their standard-bearer Senator Bato de la Rosa is a placeholder for Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte. This is despite de la Rosa admitting that he is willing to give way to Mayor Sara. Vice President and presidential aspirant Leni Robredo says she is open to dealing with China, but only in areas where the country has no conflict. This includes trade and investments, but not with regard to territorial disputes in the West Philippine Sea. Aksyon Demokratiko mayoral candidate Egay Erice says Manila Mayor Isko Moreno and Vice President Leni Robredo should join forces to stand a chance against a possible Sara Bongbong tandem. He says other presidential candidates should not be complacent that Mayor Sara won't be running. Substitutions are allowed until November 15. Meanwhile, preparations for the pilot run of pediatric inoculations are now underway, but some parents are still hesitant to let their children receive anti-COVID jabs, even as authorities assure that safety measures are in place. Greg Gregorio has the rest of the story.
Preparations are in full swing for the day one of COVID-19 vaccination for minors with comorbidities. Eligible vaccinees from the 12 to 17 age group include those with medical complexity, genetic conditions, neurologic conditions, obesity, TB, respiratory disease, and others. Some parents are supportive of the vaccine rollout for the younger population, but others are still hesitant.
Dapat po talaga, mayroon na rin sila mga vaccine. Maybe in the future, the next year, or papasok sa eskwelahan, siyempre marami sila nakahalubilo mga tao or mga bata. Protektado dapat ang mga bata.
Kasi nakakatakot baka mamaya hindi kayanin ng bata. Diba? Kaya hindi rin pwede basta-basta magdidesisyon. Ayaw ko pa.
Authorities have assured parents that measures are in place to immediately attend to any rare adverse reactions on their children. So far, only Pfizer and Moderna's COVID-19 vaccines may be used on the age group in the Philippines.
Kaya nga ginawa natin in a hospital setting muna. Itong pilot. Kasi if and when may mangyari, na ayaw natin, sana wala. At least ready na, nasa hospital na sila.
8 hospitals have been identified as inoculation sites for the pilot run of the pediatric vaccinations. A simulation exercise has been conducted at the Philippine General Hospital and National Children's Hospital. Other hospitals in the list have been checked as well. Makati Medical Center will use the same vaccination site that they used for the initial rollout of Pfizer jabs. Each hospital received 1,170 doses of Pfizer jabs for the pilot run. During the first week, recipients will be the pediatric patients of the identified hospitals, while in the second week, the implementation will be expanded to other adolescents from various cities. There are 1.4 million individuals aged 12 to 17 in Metro Manila alone. Some 144,131 of them have comorbidities. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
Fans of the Beatles, this might make you twist and shout. A 3-part docu-series about the Fab Four will stream on Disney Plus next month. The Beatles Get Back compiles over 60 hours of restored and never-before-seen footages from their 1969 recording sessions to their final public performance atop the Apple headquarters. Get Help will also dwell on the band's friendship as well as the cracks that ultimately led to their breakup in 1970. At the helm of the project is Peter Jackson, the Oscar award-winning director of The Lord of the Rings. The docuseries will roll out over 3 days starting November 25.
Star Trek's Captain James T. Kirk, portrayed by William Shatner, did it for real this time around. He just flew into space, making history as the oldest person to do so. The 90-year-old William joined 3 others in a Blue Origin rocket ship owned by billionaire Jeff Bezos. He described the experience as profound. A video from inside the spacecraft showed the crew enjoying the spatial view and the zero gravity. Their journey outside of Earth lasted for just 10 minutes and 17 seconds. It marked Blue Origin's second space tourism flight after last July.
YOLO na eh, you only live once.
Oh, umabot pa, di ba?
Akala ko matagal, 10 minutes lang pala.
Oo, pero ano lang naman eh, akit ka, baba ka rin.
And that makes us want to crave for travel. I mean, we've seen a lot of different stories about space recently. Where do you want to go?
Hindi na bali yung space eh. Yung mga nakikita kong nagpupunta na sa beach,
Dami
nagpupunta na
no?
kung saan-saan.
Yeah, parang dinadread ko na yung weekend kasi naiingit ako sa Instagram.
Pero manood ng sine sa loob ng sinehan, handa ka na?
Hindi pa. Stay outdoors, people. Well, that wraps up today's big story. Catch us again tomorrow at 8 p.m. on Signal Channels 8 and 250.
Please like our Facebook page, One News. For more in-depth analysis, visit our webpage, onenews.ph. Mask on.
Wash hands.
And stay safe, Philippines. Ako po si Robbie Alampay.
At ako naman si Gretchen Ho. We are One News. Have a good evening.